What's crack-a-lackin'? Welcome in to My Mind is a Weapon Fantasy Football Show.
Welcome into the episode of My Mind is a Weapon Fantasy Football Podcast. I am your host, Sleaze. Today, we're going to be diving into my top 10 sleeper plays that can fill your needs if you have buys or injuries this week. And remember, guys, these are deep sleeper plays. They're not like, I'm going to get a bunch of questions like start them over wide receiver twos, running back twos. Not like that. These are plug and play players that I like for the matchups that they have, that I'm going to break down statistically, defensively with all the stats, points per game, game script, injuries on defense, stuff like that, and why I think these players can fill in for you. And I'll give you a little bit like if it's a super flex play or not for the quarterback side, because that's different if you look at different leagues like that style. So before we dive into it, guys, make sure you tap that thumbs up, hit that subscription, turn that bell on. I can't thank you guys enough. Everyone that came out for the show last night, it was absolutely amazing. And what did I say? If you sit Travion Henderson, you're out of your goddamn mind. And he put up a 30 bomb. That was absolutely awesome to see. If you guys haven't checked out drafters.com, make sure you sign up using promo code SLEAZE. And if you haven't checked out the guys' FF Discord, me and Big Draft Energy cover everything in there. He was on the show with me. Thank you for all the guys that rated over from my show to his show. That's awesome to see. Show the love on both sides. Now, let's dive into some 10 sleeper options. I'm going to give you quarterbacks, running backs, wide receivers, and one tight end, but it's going to be like a double tight end play. And I'll break down why that is on the very last part of this episode. Here we go. Starting off with quarterback number one, sleeper number one. You know we had to go with the thumbnail, and this is as dangerous as it gets because Geno Smith really hasn't been playing good football. But you are going to get Monday Night Football here for a Superflex plugin if you need. Redraft, kind of sketchy to me, but Superflex, I'm okay with the start, right? Because you have two quarterbacks going. So you have the 49.5 over-under Monday Night Football game, one of the highest implied point total games of the week, so that's what you want to target there. You get the Dallas Cowboys defense. Now, let's look at the stats here first. Sorry, so 267 attempts, 178, 690. That is wrong. That is completely wrong. 267, 178, 1844 passing yards. Sorry, I don't know why I didn't put the yards in there. 1,844, 11 touchdowns, 12 ints. He's put up 30 attempts for 88 yards, 22 deep balls, which is number 3. Not great there. And, they lost Jacoby Myers, so the wide receiver room is even worse. But we're going to get to this in a minute. So 34.7 QBR, which is number 31. That is terrible. 116.6 QB 24. So obviously, the stats you look at on the season do not look good for him. But there's light at the end of the tunnel here with Geno Smith this week. So you do get the Dallas Cowboys, right? And their defense is now improved. So they did trade for Quinnen Williams from the Jets. They got Overshown back off IR. They traded for Logan as well on the D-line, which is going to help there. And they get their nickel cornerback off IR. I got to look up this guy's name. I missed it in like 3-4 videos now. But that's going to help their defense. So when you look at their defense, though, that's going to help them versus Ashton Genty. It's not really going to help them in the pass game, right? And Ashton Genty may have a tougher outing against the run defense that they have now because they've acquired some pieces and got some players back. So they rank 32nd, dead last versus the quarterback, giving up 24.9. They've given up 2,446 passing yards, which is third worst in the NFL behind the Washington Commanders, who are awful. And, that's second worst. No, never mind. Pittsburgh Steelers are second worst at 26-16. So, and they've given up 22 passing touchdowns, which is dead last in the NFL. Now, like I said, when their defensive line is improved, you still know that Ashton Genty is going to get 90+% snaps. He's going to get 20 touches. But when you're going up against Dak, when you're going up with CD, when you're going up with Pickens, Ferguson, Javonte Williams, all the weapons that the Cowboys have, you're probably playing garbage time football here from behind, which leads a pass-heavy attack. And Ashton Genty's even good in the passing game as well. Now, you're going to have Trey Tucker. You're going to have Dante Thornton, maybe some Jack Beck. But Brock Bowers, when they get bad matchups like this, if you look back at Jacksonville, right? So what did he do versus Jacksonville? He absolutely lit up fantasy football, won people DFS lineups. And you look at Geno Smith, he goes against KC, he drops 2 points. He goes against Denver, he drops 4 points. Terrible outings, good defenses. Then went against Jacksonville, he dropped 35 because Bowers went off. This is why I like Geno Smith this week. This is going to be an actual high-scoring game, I believe. and the Raiders offense is going to be playing from behind. And I really think Geno Smith can give you 15 to 20 plus points as a super flex play this week. Quarterback number 2 is going to be J.J. McCarthy of the Minnesota Vikings in his 5th career NFL start. And I know he hasn't looked great. This is kind of like a Geno Smith thing as well. And I honestly believe at the beginning of the season when he had those 2 bad performances in a row that he really wasn't as hurt as long as they did. They wanted to sit him down and get him to learn more, which is fine. This is his first season as a starter, right? So why I like him this week, and when you look at his numbers, remember, that's a 4-game sample size. So 108 pass attempts, 58 completions, percentage has got to come up. That's not great there. That's number 44 at 54%. 692 yards, 5 touchdowns, more interceptions than touchdowns. Like I said, he's not playing great ball, but he does give you the rushing upside that you like for fantasy football with 21 attempts for 110 yards as well and 2 rushing touchdowns on the ground. 20 deep balls. Again, he hasn't been out there that long. QBR is awful, 21.5. And again, he's quarterback 35 with 64.7 because he hasn't been out there that long. Now, you're going to be back at home this week. You're going to need a must-win game, 4-5. You're going up against the red-hot Chicago Bears that are 6-3. The over-under of this game also 48.5. We're targeting another high implied point total game, which is what you want for fantasy football. Now, the best part about this is the Chicago Bears defense, guys, is obliterated with injuries. I mean, the list is ridiculous. So let's just start with the corners. So superstar corner Juwan Johnson down, and this is going to be tough off the top of my memory here. Kyler Gordon is down. Frazier is down. I don't know. I think the other guys actually, let's pull it up here so I could just, get it at the same time here. Injury report, Bears here. I was trying to do it off the top of my head. It doesn't work like that all the time. Terrell Smith, injury reserve as well. Another corner that's down. And then you look at their defense, man. They got Turner down, Odembingo down. And these are just questionable players as well. TJ Edwards, Brisker, their safety got banged up. Their defense is just shot. And this is the Chicago Bears versus the quarterback as well. They ranked 27th, giving up 21 points a game, 2,273 yards in the air, which is bottom 10, 13 touchdowns, 256 on the ground, and 3 touchdowns on the ground. Justin Jefferson has to get going. Jordan Addison has to get going. I love TJ Hawkinson in the matchup this week because of the injuries they have to the linebacking core as well. You got Aaron Jones. You got Jordan Mason. They got to use them. They got to get number 9, J.J. McCarthy, locked in, dialed in. And this could be a game kind of like Geno Smith where I like him for 15 to 20 plus points as a super flex play sleeper. Sleeper play number 3, quarterback number 3 is going to be Tua Tagovailoa. And this is probably my favorite sleeper play out of all 3 of them, right? So what we got going on here is you're getting the Washington Commanders. You are going to be in Madrid, Spain, which we hope it's not one of these, London games where they're all terrible. So it's going to be early morning, 6:30 game out here on the West Coast. So it's going to be, I hope it's a good game here. And defensively, it has to be. So 47.5 over under. Again, we're targeting another high implied point total game. Miami's favored by 2.5 in this game. Now, Tua's stats on the season, 292 attempts, 199 completions, 1,952 yards. Completion percentage 68.2. Tua always has a high completion percentage, 17 touchdowns, 13 picks. He's been throwing interceptions like goddamn hotcakes lately, though. He has 9 interceptions in the past 5 games, almost 2 a game. Not good there. He's got to cut those down. 14 attempts for 38 yards, 0 rushing touchdowns. You don't want to see him run with his concussion protocol history anyways. And deep balls 27, lost Tyreek, so that number is obviously lower. 43.3 QBR, not good there. And then 136.8, he's QB 18. Now, you're going to get the Washington Commanders, and we'll get to their defensive ranks here in a second. But this is just ridiculous right here, right? So their linebacker, Ayo Cahoe, is out. Their starting corner, Trey Amos, just went to injured reserve last week. Their other starting corner went to injured reserve the week before, and Marshawn Lattimore. They're down Jaden Daniels. They're down Terry McLaurin. Austin Eckler has obviously been out for the season, and they're going to roll out JCM and Chris Rodriguez Jr. And then you have to look at how bad this defense is versus the quarterback. They give up 21.23 points. That ranks 30th. That's third worst to the NFL. 2,737 yards. That is dead last. And 22 touchdowns tied with the Dallas Cowboys. That is dead last. And 168 on the ground with 1 touchdown on the ground. But again, Tua's not going to be running. This is why if you have Jalen Waddle and he is not in your roster, it's like Travion Henderson last night. I will go psycho on you if you pull into my chat and you said you didn't start Jalen Waddle this week. I even like Malik Washington. We'll get to that later in this episode here. And Tua is my favorite sleeper play of the week, and he is actually I'm even okay with starting him in redraft this week. That's how much I like him in this matchup here. Sleeper play number 4, we're going to target that same game that we just talked about, the Commanders versus the Dolphins in Madrid, Spain, and it is going to be Chris Rodriguez Jr. of the Washington Commanders. Now, when you look at his stats here, you know he's been playing running back 3 or some sprinkled in running back 2. Well, but when the season started, when you had Eckler and all that, he didn't even play in the first 2 weeks of the season. He hasn't played a single game all year, over 38% of the snaps. So these numbers are very, very limited. 45 attempts, 200 yards, 4.44 yards per carry. 3 touchdowns is kind of bonkers to me. He's had 3 touchdowns in the past 4 weeks, which is crazy there. He's also had 0 receptions, 0 receiving yards, 0 receiving touchdowns. Doesn't get a lot of work through the air. 22.6% snap share, again, very, very low on the season. Red zone touches 13, target share obviously 0%, and points 38. He's RB 56. Now, he was named the captain last week, and he comes into the game versus Detroit, and he had a rushing touchdown, and then he got hurt in the second quarter, and he was out. He popped the shoulder. Then he came back this week, practiced Wednesday and Thursday, back to the captain status, and he's probably going to be back to leading this timeshare between him and JCM to like 60-40% here. And this is kind of an, not even like, I must say it's kind of like a RB3 flex play, like close to sleeper, maybe a little bit above sleeper play here, because this is like the most advantageous matchup against the running back, besides like the Cincinnati Bengals or the Cowboys. You get the Miami Dolphins who give up 25 points a game. They rank 25th. They've given up 1,126 rushing yards, which is 3rd worst in the NFL. That's just on the ground. 392 through the air. We're looking at 1,500 yards they've given up to the running back in total, and we're in week 11. Do the math right there. And then they've given up 7 total touchdowns. So the only worrisome thing, and this is like the only worrisome part, is you might get McNichols if the Commanders fall way behind in this game. But I think he's still going to be serviceable enough. I still think he's going to get 15, 17 touches in this game with touchdown upside. Obviously, he scored 3 of the past 4. Miami's traded away Jaden Phillips as well, so their D end is gone. And they still got Bradley Chubb out there, but still they kind of pulled the Jets here and kind of made some moves for the future here, which is smart for them because I think their season's pretty much over. And this is not a bad play. This is going to be a very, very good flex play with 10-point upside, and no one really knows it this week. Sleeper play number 5, running back number 2 is going to be Sean Tucker of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, 6-3, going up against the Buffalo Bills at 6-3, 47.5 over under. Again, another one of the high implied point total games. Buffalo is favored by 5.5. And Bucky Irving, we just got the ruled out for week 11 update, even though he practiced Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So it is a good chance that Bucky will be back next week. This is your only Sean Tucker chance you are going to get right here. So why I like Sean Tucker, and again, these stats are very limited. I don't even think he didn't play till week 5, and he's never played over 35% of the snaps all year long, right? His highest snap share was 34% in week 8 against the New Orleans Saints. But if you've watched the Bucs, right, and I'm not going to read the stats, they're on the screen there, you can see them because he hasn't played that much. And if you've watched Rachaad White, he just doesn't look good, man. And you can tell that I think they know, like Grizzard knows. The offensive coordinator for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, he's going to give more touches to Sean Tucker here, and he has seen an average of 10.5 touches over the past 2 games, and he's had 40 and 50 yards on the ground in both those games with a rushing touchdown and 2 rushing touchdowns in the past 4 games. Now, I get that Rachaad White will probably get the receiving work, if they fall behind against Buffalo. I do think this could be a shootout game, but I think Sean Tucker's going to get all the red zone work, and I think he's going to lead this backfield in touches this week because you can just tell who the more explosive back is. Yards per carry, 5.89 last week. Rachaad White's like 2.8. He looks sluggishly slow. And you're going to get the Buffalo Bills, who Ed Oliver's out for the season. They're DT. They're getting gashed by the run. They rank 26, giving up 25.5, 1,055 yards on the ground, which is bottom 10, 12 rushing touchdowns, which is tied for first or dead last in the NFL, if you want to put it that way, 214 through the air. So the explosive runner, and this is kind of like a Chris Rodriguez situation for me here, that you could get 10 points, and he's probably on your waiver wire as a flex play if you're desperate in Sean Tucker, and I really think that he is going to out-touch Rachaad White this week. You can just tell by the eye test. If I can tell, how the hell can the coaches not tell? Sleeper play number 6, running back number 3 is going to be the rookie Brashard Smith for the Kansas City Chiefs this week, and it's going to be a tough matchup. We all know that. They are going at the Denver Broncos 8-2. It is kind of a must-win game for the Chiefs at 5-4, even though I wouldn't count them out at 5-5 either way. I didn't count the Ravens out at 1-5. So the over-under in this game, 44.5. I think that's too low. I think it's going to go way over that, even though both these defenses are good. I'm expecting a shootout game here between Bo Nix and Patrick Mahomes in this game. And we know Isaiah Pacheco is not going to be out there. And we know what we get with Kareem Hunt, right? Yeah, I know he's gotten 17 points and like 12 points or 11 points, whatever it is last game, because he's found the end zone twice because this offense is so prolific with Patrick Mahomes, Rashee Rice, Xavier Worthy, Hollywood Brown, Travis Kelce. They're going to move the ball through the air and get to the red zone where Kareem Hunt will probably punch one in, right? But outside of the goal line work for him, he's had 2 very plus matchups here and not done a lot with it. 9 for 40, 11 for, I think, like 45, or 11 for 49, just pulled it up. And if you know anything about fantasy football, usually off the buys, the rookie starts to get more work. And we've seen the update that he's going to be out there more. So I would say that Kareem Hunt's obviously the better play because the touchdown upside in the red zone. But what Brashard Smith can do in the passing game and his like explosive electric playmaking ability to try to kind of like RJ Harvey in the open field, to me, this is where it's going to thrive for him this week if he sees more opportunities. So when you look at his snapshot down there, 16.1%, I think that's going to be in the 35-40% range here. And I do think PPR-wise, with the receptions out the backfield that he's going to get in this game, that he can be a sleeper play that can give you a 10-point, game with a major upside to break one. So I really, really like Brashard Smith as a sleeper play, but this is like my dangerous sleeper play of all 3 of them. But I do think he has just major upside if he could get loose, man. Sleeper play number 7, heading over to the wide receiver side. This is what you get when you're going through it, man. Just making a little speaking mistakes here. If I like Tua as a sleeper, I'm going to like Malik Washington as well. And the plus side for Malik Washington, since Tyreek has gone down, he's been mixed in, and now he's getting a little more work than normal, right? Even though last week was his down week snap share against Buffalo, they actually had the lead in that game and pounded the run more than they needed to pass, which was crazy. So when you look at the matchup here, you're going to get the Washington Commanders. We talked about how much I like Tua, how their corners are down, how their linebackers are down, how they're missing JD5, how they're missing Terry McLaurin. And let's just look at Malik Washington here for the past 5 weeks, right? Let's say 5 weeks. And sleeper play is just trying to get 10 points for a player you're throwing in there, right? So Cleveland, 8 points. Atlanta, 13.6. Baltimore, 7.10. Buffalo, 9.1. Found the end zone, scored 2 out of the past 3 games. That's touchdowns. That's what you want, right? Now you're going to get the Commanders. And we talked about how bad they are versus the quarterback, right? Let's look at the wide receiver. And they rank 30th versus the quarterback. Don't worry. They rank 30th versus the wide receiver as well. 38.8 points. 1,779 passing yards allowed. That is dead last in the NFL to the wide receiver position. 13 touchdowns, which is tied for second behind the Dallas Cowboys, who have given up 16, and they're tied with the Chicago Bears because the Bears defense that we already talked about is beat up just the same way. So when you're looking at his snap strip there, it says 57.3. He's played 70, 62, and 64 before that. That's about his normal snap share per game right now. I know that Nick Westbrook-Akine is your other, X and Y big wide receiver on the outside with him, and you got Dulcich across the middle. But with the injuries they have, Malik Washington is a very, very good flex play that I think is going to give you 8 to 10 points, and you could toss him in your lineup. Sleeper play number 8, wide receiver number 2 is going to be Trey Tucker of the Las Vegas Raiders. I know he hasn't been great lately in the past 3 weeks, but his numbers are just bonkers, right? And I know Geno Smith, like I said, Geno Smith, if I like Geno Smith this week as a sleeper play, which I never really liked Geno, I'm probably going to like Trey Tucker as well, kind of like Tua, kind of like Malik Washington, same situation, right? So look at these numbers, though. 46 targets, 34 receptions, 455, 4 touchdowns. And again, he scored 3 touchdowns in week 3, and he scored in week 1. He hasn't scored a touchdown since week 3, okay? So target share, 17.6%, but these are the numbers right here. Snapshot, this is what I like. I'm a volume guy. 94.2%. That is elite wide receiver 1 usage. Route participation, 97.6. That's elite wide receiver 1 usage. Red zone targets 5. Obviously, he's 5'8", 180, dripping wet probably, so he's not going to get a lot of red zone looks. 107.1, he's wide receiver 31. Now, in the past 3 weeks, he hasn't even cracked 10 points. It's been a rough go. You've had Jacksonville, which is a plus matchup. He didn't do anything. You had Denver, which is a tough matchup. You had KC, which is a tough matchup. And the last time he scored 10 points was against Tennessee in week 6 here. So you're going to get the Dallas Cowboys. We talked about the quarterback situation, so let's look at the Dallas Cowboys versus the wide receiver. Oh, don't worry. They're 31st, second worst in the NFL, giving up 40.5 points to the wide receiver position a game, 1,535 yards, which is bottom 3 in the NFL, 16 passing touchdowns. We talked about that's the worst in the NFL. You know, Brock Bowers, the Denver Broncos, just gave you kind of a blueprint on how they're going to bracket him and take Brock Bowers away, because that's literally all the Raiders have. You're in a game where it's a 49.5 over-under. We talked about the high implied point total game. They're going to have to pass the ball heavy here, and the Cowboys have upped their defense against the run. They've added, like I said, Quinnen Williams, Logan. They got Overshown back. They're going to be better versus the run. It's going to have to be a pass attack here. And Trey Tucker can always pop one off the top with his vertical speed. And if you need, he's also one of my favorite DFS dart throw scroll down plays as well. And if you need a flex play, Trey Tucker is not a bad one this week, especially against a very, very bad Cowboys secondary. Sleeper play number 9, wide receiver number 3 is going to be Michael Wilson of the Arizona Cardinals. And yes, MHJ was ruled out with the appendicitis, and who knows how long that's going to be or if he even comes back, which is a scary thought to think about in fantasy football right now. But you've got the entire 49ers weapon cast back, right? 48.5 over under. Obviously, you can tell I'm a Niner fan behind me. And the 49ers defense is beat to shit, right? We all know this. I mean, we're down Bosa, superstar DN. Michael Williams, our first-round pick DN, is down. Fred Warner, the best linebacker in football, is out for the season. And we also have our star corner, Lenore, dealing with a calf injury as well right now, but it looks like he's going to be out there. He practiced limited. We're also missing just players on player. The list goes on and on. D. Winters is questionable. Alfred Collins, our DT, is also banged up. We're down Tomlinson, our other corner. We're down Robinson, our other backup corner. It's just been a nightmare for the San Francisco 49er defense. So when you look at this matchup here and you look at Michael Wilson's stats, and over the past, couple games, he's always like a 7, 8, 3, 4, 9. He hasn't even cracked 10 points once this season. This is going to be the game he cracks 10 points here, because Trey McBride's going to be the focal point of this defense, or of the 49ers defense. So let's look at the 49ers. And guys, we've just dropped and dropped. We were good versus the quarterback, running back, wide receiver, tight end. We've dropped so far down. We were number 7 or 6 at the beginning of the year. Now we're 22. This is what injuries do. We give up 34.6 points to the wide receiver position, ranking 22nd, 1,546 passing yards, bottom 10, 10 passing touchdowns. That's bottom 10 as well. And when you look at the situation, Jacoby Brissett has made their offense better. There's no denying that. It's looked better than when Kyler Murray's out there. The passing game looked better. Marvin Harrison's looked better. Trey McBride's looked better. They did not get Trey Benson back. The run game, with DeMarcado, Bam Knight, Michael Carter is not going to be great. And when the 49ers have all their offensive weapons back, even Ricky Pearsall, this is going to have to be a game where they score. And the 49ers defense, like I said, we don't stop anybody. So I expect this to be a high shootout game. I expect Michael Wilson to get over 10-plus points. He is like my Tua. He's my favorite wide receiver sleeper of the week. Tua is my favorite quarterback. And I think he's going to get 8 to 10 targets in this game, because you got to think that McBride is going to be what we're focusing on for the 49er defense again. And I think the touchdown upside is here for Michael Wilson as well. And I think he's going to score for the first time since week 2 against Carolina. He's one of my favorite sleeper plays this week. Last but not least, we had to throw a tight end in there. And if you've been subscribed to my channel or was subscribed to my channel week 7 when the Steelers played the Bengals, I called it to be a shootout game. I called Joe Flacco and Aaron Rodgers both to have a monster game. They both had 30 points. And I'm doubling it back here, and we're running it again. So the 3-6 Bengals headed into the 5-4 Steelers. The over-under is 48.5. Again, high implied point total game. Pittsburgh's favored by 5.5. Now, I have Pat Freiermuth up there as well, because if you look back, and Arthur Smith is always going to Arthur Smith with his tight ends. So either one of these guys is going to be like the sleeper call, right? One of them is going to score a touchdown in this game, and I'd almost guarantee it. So last time against the Steelers, what happened? The Pittsburgh Steelers had four touchdowns to the tight end, right? So when you look at the Cincinnati Bengals, why did they have 4 touchdowns? Because the Bengals are the worst in the NFL versus tight end by a mile. 22.8 points per game, which is 32nd. And just to give you a reference to how bad that is, that's average. The Jacksonville Jaguars give up 18.6 and they're 31st. So that's 4 more points a game than everyone else, or than the second worst team they allow, which is how bad they are. 722 yards, which is second worst behind the Indianapolis Colts. 12 touchdowns they've allowed to the tight end position. Obviously 4 in one game where they hurt them against the Steelers. But again, just for an example here, second behind that is 7. They've allowed 5 more touchdowns than everyone else in the NFL to the tight end position. And what we look at here is, I know they run like a Darnell Washington, Pat Fryer with Jonnu Smith, the Arthur Smith special of tight end nonsense. But if you look at Jonnu Smith's season, this is his second highest snap share game was against the Cincinnati Bengals in week 7. So the upside is going to be there. Obviously, the defense is very, very bad. Again, both these guys may be on your waiver wire. If they are, I'm going to go with Jonnu Smith over Pat Freiermuth. You could go Pat Freiermuth over Jonnu Smith if you wanted. These are deep dart, sleeper play throws here. In tight ends, very hard to find a sleeper to hit 10 points, especially, and they're probably ranked like in the 20 to 30 range. But the matchup is great here. And I do think the quarterbacks are going to have another 20-plus point game each. I think the points are going to be flying. And when you look at the matchups, it's very hard to ignore that either Jonnu Smith and Pat Freiermuth are going to score this week. And I like either one of them as a sleeper play at tight end. Thanks for rocking with me today. That's the end of the episode. That is my 10 sleeper plug and plays each position if you guys need. Remember, if you guys have any questions, drop them down below. I am late on my start sit videos. I will get my wide receivers and tight ends out hopefully around this afternoon. I got a couple things to do here after this episode, and then I'll be back. But I will get them out to you guys. I missed the Jets start sit, but there really wasn't a lot. It was pretty much Trayvon Henderson, Drake May, Stephon Diggs, and on the Jets side, no one. I didn't even like Breece Hall last night. So before you head out, guys, make sure you tap that thumbs up, hit that subscription, turn that bell on. Helps me out a ton. I can't thank you guys enough for all the support again. And if you guys want to check out both the links, the drafters.com, the sponsor, or the Guys FF Discord, our premium Discord we run, check out both those links pinned in the comment and in the description of the video. I hope you guys enjoyed the content. That's it for me. My next videos will be running back and wide receiver, start 'em, sit 'em. And again, I hope I get them out today. Sleazebomb out. I'll catch you guys in the next one.